Good morning. Welcome to part 2 of this review. Part 2 starts at number 23, and these are some of the formulas that you will need for the review. Remember that we know so far the linear equations, the standard form, which is ax plus by equals c. We have the slope-intercept form. Remember, slope m, intercept form b. It gives away both, so that is y equals mx plus b. We also have the point slope form, which uses a point xy, and it uses the slope dm. And this is the formula, y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. So in the problems they will name these things, and you have to know that these are the formulas. Okay, if you want to know the slope of the line, then you do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, which is the same thing as doing delta y over delta x. We also know the vertex form, so we might need that one too. Okay, remember that h is sideways, k is up and down, and then the a is the one that stretches or compresses. So let's get started. Number 23. So this is telling me find the x and the y intercepts. Convert to slope integer form. Now, if they're asking me to convert it to slope intercept form, and again, that is y equals mx plus b. So let's go ahead and do that. For that, you need two steps. You need to move the x, and then you have to divide. Okay, let's do number 1 together. Move the x. This is positive 3. I will do minus 3x minus 3x. That's a 0, of course. And I bring down the y, negative 2y equals, remember that these two don't combine. So you will push the 12 to the right, and then this is what you get. Finally, we did the move x. Now let's divide by the number next to the y. When you do that, I'll go ahead and do the work over here. That is a 1. So now you have y equals, negative by negative is positive, so 3 over 2x. Positive by negative is negative, so that's 6. Okay, after you do this, now it's good for calculator. So use your calculator and plot the point the equation. Hit graph, and you will see the y-intercept, and you will also see the x-intercept. The y-intercept is, I'm going to start counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the y-intercept is, let's start with the y-intercept, 0, negative 6. And the x-intercept, remember x-intercept is on the x, so that is 1, 2, 3, and 4. And this is all you do for 23. So you have to do 1 and 2 more. Same steps. Slope intercept form, the rest is calculator. Okay, you can also find the y-intercept by looking at 0 on x. 0 is negative 6, so that's the same thing. And you can find the x-intercept by looking at 0 on y, which is 4. Okay, that's another strategy too. Next, 24. Find the slope of the following equations. Again, notice that these are in standard form. All of them are in standard. And standard form does not give away the slope. There is no m in this equation. It has to be this one. This is the one that is most useful when it comes to finding the slope. Therefore, I need to change using the same steps. Move x and then divide. So I will do that. I will do that for the inequality, because just know that it's the same thing. Move x plus 6 plus 6x. That's a 0. You bring down the 3y. You bring down the inequality sign. And again, just to be consistent with the formula, I will go ahead and put the 6x first and then the 18. And that's moving the x. Now let's divide. Divide by 3, divide by 3, divide by 3. So now we have y is less than 6 over, what is 6 over 3? That is a 2. So that's 2x. 18 divided by 3, that's a 6. And there you go. So y is less than 2x plus 6. Remember that slope is always next to the slope is always next to the x, but it's not the x, so the slope is 2. And that's how you do it. This is the slope. It's always next to the x. So you do the same thing for this one and for that one. Number 25, simplify the following expressions. When it says simplify, you're basically just doing any work that is doable, okay? For example, in number 25, I see a parentheses, and if they ask me to simplify, then maybe they want me to do the parentheses, okay? Which is multiplication. Remember, every time you do this, it's multiplying. So please multiply in your calculator. So 2x drops. I'm not doing anything to that one yet. Negative 1 times 3x, that becomes negative 3x. And negative 1 times negative 4, that becomes a positive 4. And then the plus 3 drops. Okay, so everything that you don't touch that drops down to the next step. The x's, they go together. 2 minus 3, that's just negative 1x, so negative 1x. 4 plus 3, that's a 7, so negative x plus 7. This is how you simplify. This is it. You're not doing anything else. Okay, let's do the second one. Same thing. If you don't see a number, it's because it's a 1. I see parentheses, so you have to do that step again. So let's do it. Negative 1, negative 4, that's positive, so that's 4x. Negative 1 times 2, that would be a positive, the negative 2. You drop down the negative 3x, you drop down the 6. And here we go. Let's do it. I see an x over here and an x over here. So that's basically, if you put this together, that's 4 minus 3. And 4 minus 3 is 1. So 1x. I also see a number and a number. Now, if they are not together, you can always use your calculator in this way. I want to make sure I know the answer, so that's negative 2 plus a 6, and that gives me 4. It is positive. Remember, if it doesn't have a sign, it's because it's positive. So 1x plus 4, and you're done. Okay, that's the final answer. Okay, number 26. Find the slope and intercepts. Okay, so x and y, both of them, of the following graphs. Okay, slope is m. Okay, I do have a graph, so I have to do the rise over run. Remember that when you work with graphs, you have to know if it's negative or if it's positive. This one is negative. Okay, how do I know? Well, a while back I showed you this triangle. Remember, this is positive, this is negative, so it matches this pattern. Whatever I do over here, the slope has to be negative. Okay, so let's do it. If I want to level down to this, I have to go down 1, 2, 3. And if I want to reach that point, then I have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 3 over 8, but I know this is negative for sure because I went down 3, so that's negative 3 over 8. Y-intercept, again, this is the y-axis, so I want to know if the line crosses the y-axis, and it does. It crosses right there. It's not a perfect point, but you can see that it does. If I want to estimate it, that would be maybe 0,1.5. Notice how I put it as a point. You want to do that, okay? All the time. X-intercept. Again, now it's the other way. Does it cross the x-axis? And yes, it does. It crosses right there, and it's a 4. So I will have to put it as a point, 4, 0. Okay? And that's it. That's all you do. Notice that this one is going up. It matches this pattern. So therefore, this is a positive one. Whatever you do, make sure it's a positive one. Okay, let's do it. I leveled up now. I'm not leveling down, so I level up 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is 2 over 6, which reduces to or simplifies to 1/3. Okay, So there's a point in the middle, so you could have done that too. Y-intercept, well, the y-intercept, I'm looking at it, it's right there. Remember, it's the y-axis, so therefore is 0, -2. The x-intercept, it's not showing. However, just because it doesn't show doesn't mean it doesn't have one. If you continue the line, just to pretend that it goes one more, it's probably going to hit at 6. So therefore, the x-intercept is 6. And it does because 1, 1, 2, 3. It follows the same pattern. Okay? Good. Next. 27. Graph the following equations. Remember to change to y equals mx plus b, the slope-intercept form. Okay? Remember that this equation is in standard, and it's not good if it's in standard. Okay? You have to change it to y equals mx plus b for you to be able to graph. Okay? So same thing, if you want to change it to y equals mx plus b, you always have to move x and divide. Move x, divide. So let's move the x, minus 5x, and that's a 0, so now you have negative 5y equals negative 5x plus 10. Okay, the last step is divide, so negative 5 divided by negative 5 divided by negative 5. I went over my graph, but you get the idea. That's a 1, so y equals negative is 1, x, positive by negative is negative, so 10 divided by negative 5 is negative 2. Remember that if you don't know your math facts, you have to use the calculator, and you do it this way. 10 divided by negative 5 is negative 2, so you put minus 2. Okay? M is always next to the x. I see that the m is positive 1. Remember, if it's a whole number, you put it over 1, so this is telling me 1 up, 1 right. What do I do with the 2? Well, the 2 is the b, which is the beginning, so I'm going to label it over here. B is negative 2. And this one starts on the y-axis. Okay, you never put it on the x-axis. This b value has to be on the y. So it is this 2. And it's going 1 up, 1 right, so 1 up, 1 right, 1 up, 1 right. And you do the same pattern, and I know I'm going fast, but it's just that this one, 1 up, 1 right, is just every single corner. And then you graph. Okay? And there you go. Do the same thing for this one. That's how you do it. Alright, 28. Write equations that are parallel to y equals 2x minus 4 and go through the points listed. Okay? So this has to, you have to do some thinking on this one, and I know it's been a while. Parallel. I know they don't touch. Okay? That's elementary stuff. What do you know about parallels and the function? Well, if you forgot, they have the same slope. They have the same m. Okay? If I look at this equation, I see that the slope is 2. So m equals 2. So I need to use whatever I do. Let me shift over here. Whatever I do with the next equation, I have to make sure that the m is 2. And they also listed points. So I have m and I have a point, or 3 points for each problem, right? One for every problem. So m and a point. So I have m and I have a point. When I look at the formula chart again, the only one that uses m and a point is the point slope form, which is y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. And this is the way you do it. Since you have a point, this is x1 and this is y1. And then you have the slope, for, of course, which is 2. So let's put everything together. Y minus y1. Always write the equation. It helps a lot when you rewrite the equation. It sticks with you when you do it. Mx minus x1. There you go. And then you start plotting the numbers. I'll go ahead and use a different color. So y minus y1 is 6. So I'll put a 6. Equals m. Well, I already know that m is 2. So we'll put a 2 for m. parentheses x minus whatever x1 is. X1 is 0. And there you go. And that's how you do it. You don't have to change anything. This is the equation. It is parallel because it has the same slope. Let's do one more together because this has negatives and I want to make sure you do good with the negative numbers. So y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. Same idea. You are using the same slope because all of these have to be parallel. But I'm using this point now. The x1 is negative 1 and the y1 is negative 7. Same thing. Y minus, notice that this minus is from the formula. But the negative, the y1 has a negative already. Therefore, you have to put an extra parenthesis to separate the minus from the formula and the negative from the number. Equals m, well, I know m is 2. X minus, again, minus from the formula. But then the x1 has a negative 1, so therefore, I put an extra set of parentheses. Now that I have all this, I can simplify. Negative by negative is positive, so y plus 7 equals 2. Negative by negative is positive, so this is really x plus 1. And that is the answer. You have to do this one. Okay? Alright, so on 29, we have almost the same thing except it's asking me to write an equation that is perpendicular to y equals negative 3x plus 5 and goes through the given points. Again, when you write something perpendicular, it has to do with the slope, okay? So the slope has to do something with this formula. And for this one, you have to flip the slope. You have to change the sign. Okay, so two things. Flip the slope, change the sign. First, you got to know what the slope is. This is the original function, and I notice that the slope is, the original one is negative 3 over 1. Okay? But if I flip this, okay, because I have to flip it for perpendicular, then I have m equals, flip the numbers, 1 over 3. Change the sign. Well, this is negative, now it stays as positive. So this is the one that I need to use for the formula, okay? And again, I have points, so I have to write it the same way I did the top ones, okay? I'll do one and then you should know how to do the rest. Let me do this one. So y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. Remember, this is x1, this is y1. So y minus y1, which is 6, so I'll put a 6, equals m. Well, m again, we're using the boxed one. 1 over 3, that's perpendicular. X minus x1 is 0, and you can leave it like this, okay? And that's it. Notice that the 0 doesn't really affect in any way, so you might not even see the 0 in the answer choices if it ever happens, okay? You might just see that because the 0 will not affect. But it's always good that you know it's there, and if it's not there, just again, know that it's a 0. 30. Solve the following harder equations and graph the inequalities. Now, these are harder because it involves more steps to solve them, and that's all it is. But you should know these steps already. I'll do one and then you do the rest. I look at the inequalities or equations, and if I notice that there is a parenthesis, then I have to use parentheses. I have to do it first. And there you go. 7 times x is 7x. 7 times 9 is negative 63. Less than or equal to negative 63. The goal here is to find x. So if that's the goal, then I need to move this 63 over by doing plus 63, and then that's a 0. So you have 7x less than or equal to, again, if you don't know your math facts, you use your calculator. Negative 63 plus 63, and you get 0. That's okay. 0 is a number, so take it. 0. Now I have to divide by 7, divide by 7, divide by 7. Now I'll shift my work over here. I don't have more room. That's a 1, so x is less than or equal to 0 divided by 7 is 7. I mean 0, I'm sorry. I'm trying to do 2 things at a time here. So 0 divided by 7 is the right way, equals 0. There you go. And then you do this one and you do that one in a similar manner. Work it out. Write the equation in point-slope form. Remember, if you don't know what point-slope form is, you look at your formula chart. There it is. Point-slope form, which is y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. And they gave you everything you need. They gave you the slope, they gave you the point. So this is x1, y1. So y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. And again, all you have to do is replace the numbers. Y minus y1 is -2, so I need an extra parenthesis. M is 4 over 3, so I put over 4 over 3 for m. X minus, the x is a 3. Remember, this minus came from the formula, so I keep it. And there you go. So the only thing that you could simplify is this negative by negative, which is positive. So y plus 2 equals 4 over 3 x minus 3. And there you go. You do the same thing with the letter B. Okay, let's flip to the back. I have more graphs. There it is. 32. Draw an accurate trend line. So trend line is just a line that follows the pattern. Okay, so you have a pattern and you want to make sure that the line that you draw follows that pattern as close as you can. So I'll go ahead and use my straight edge, and I see that this could be a pattern. Okay, so I'm gonna fit all the points more or less on the line, and there you go. That's the line. This is called a trend line, or something is called the line of best fit. Okay, there you go. You got it. Second one, the points are not as close as you would want to, but you can still kind of draw a line, and it has to be the best one that you can. It doesn't have to be a perfect one, it just has to be the best that you can. I'm just going to use the same straight edge. It's impossible to do it this way, by the way. So this trend line has to be negative in a way. So again, I will try to get as many points above and on top of this pattern, and it can probably look like that, maybe. Again, you have a few points above, you have a few points below, and that's how you do it. 33. Use the graph below and answer the questions. Okay, so there's a graph. Whenever you have a graph, you might want to find the slope. Okay, so let's do that first. I will go ahead and find 2 points, 2 perfect points, that one and then this one. Okay, 2 points. Let's find the slope. M for this graph is 1, 2, 1. So I leveled down, so that's -2 over 1. What is the y-intercept? Let's look at the y-intercept. The y-intercept is 1. So there you go. You got it. Alright, let's take a look at A, B, and C. A is telling me to write an equation of a line that has the same slope, so that's easy. I don't have to find another slope, same slope, but the y-intercept is translated 2 units down. Okay, remember y-intercept is here, the y-intercept is currently there, and if you have to go 2 units down, where do you end? You end at -1. So therefore the equation is y equals same slope, -2 over 1x, and I know I will land at -1. There you go. Easy. B, write an equation of a line that is parallel. Okay? So it has a parallel slope, but the y-intercept is translated 4 units up. So you're going up this time, and it's parallel. Again, parallel means same slope. Okay? So therefore, if I have to move up from this one, and I 1, 2, 3, 4, where do you end? At 5. So the y-intercept is 5, but the same slope. So therefore, negative 2 or 1x plus 5. Again, graphing. You need graphing techniques for this final, okay? So make sure that you practice this if you want to do good in the final. Finally, perpendicular. Letter C is telling me to write a line that has perpendicular slope. Remember, perpendicular means flip and change sign. Okay, flip and change. So if this is the original slope, the perpendicular one has to be, we flip this, it's 1 over 2. We change the sign, it stays as positive now, because that one is negative. So now I have the equation y equals, oh, by the way, it's the same y-intercept, so I will skip the 1. 1/2 x plus 1. This is the perpendicular slope, and this is the same y-intercept. Okay, let's go ahead and continue with the test or the review. Marvelous Movers are doing really bad in recession. They have decided to change some of their pricing. Last year they charged $35 for labor fee and $3 per box. This situation is modeled by the function y equals 35 plus 3x. So they gave you an equation that's easy. With business being so bad, they have decided to eliminate their labor fee. So they're eliminating labor fee. Remember, fee, every time you see a fee, it's usually the y-intercept. Write and graph the new equation for the situation. Okay, so if we are eliminating the y-intercept, we have to eliminate the one that the number that is alone. This is the y-intercept. We have to eliminate this one. So what is the new equation if we eliminate that one? The equation is y equals 3x. Okay, and is this discrete or continuous? Discrete is counting, continuous is measuring. Now this is moving company, and they charge per box. Are you counting those boxes or are you measuring the boxes? Okay, so it never says anything about measuring boxes, so therefore we are going to go with discrete. Okay, and now that you have a function, you can also use your calculator and figure it out. Figure out the pattern. Okay, y equals 3x. And you start putting points. I have 0, 0, 0, 1, 3, 2, 6, and so on. So 0, 0, 1, 3, 2, 6, 3, 9, 4, 12, 5, 15. So it's basically every corner. Now, notice that I put the points, and since you already told me, or since we know actually that it is discrete, then we have to leave it as it is. We cannot connect these points because discrete means dots. Okay, it's been a while, but it's dots. And then it says, is the total cost a function of the number of boxes? Yes, depending on how many boxes you get, it will affect the cost. Does the total cost vary directly with the number of boxes? Okay, so direct variation, we haven't done this in a while. Direct variation basically means if you divide the y and the x, you should get the same number all the time. The y and the x, you get the same number all the time. And if you take the y, let's say 3, and you divide it by the x, you get 3. So 3 divided by 1 is 3. 6 divided by 2 is also 3. 9 divided by 3 is also 3. 12 divided by 4 is also 3. So you get 3 all the time. So therefore this is a direct variation. Okay? So again, direct variation means y divided by x. Next one. 35. Graph the following equations for the given and give the correct slope, y-intercept, shade, and so on and so on. So I'll do one and you do one later, okay? So I'll take a look at this. M is 2 over 3. Y-intercept is -3. Line, what type of line is this? If you look at your notes, this is a solid line. And where does it shade? Again, this is that symbol, and you can write the word less with it, so that means you shade below. Okay, so we are going to shade below. Let's graph -3. There it is. That's the y-intercept. That's the beginning. And I start counting. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Opposite, 1, 2 down, 1, 2, 3 left. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and 3. And there we go. Your graph, we already said it was a solid line, so I can connect this points like that. And we also said that it's shaded below. So therefore, let's shade below. And there you go. These are inequalities. Inequalities will always get the shading when you graph them. Okay. Okay, last section of the review. You have to define a few things. Whatever you remember about these words, just write them down, okay? I'll go ahead and write a few things. If I miss anything, I mean, you can add, of course. And here we go. Function. Well, if I want to know that something is a function, x cannot repeat. A line. Well, a line is a line. All I know that the equation is mx plus b the whole time for line. Okay? Y equals mx plus b. That's something you can write about, linear. And of course the graph is a line. Direct variation. Direct variation, it's almost like proportional. Okay, so you can think as proportional. Meaning it goes through 0, 0. But more importantly, remember that I also explained direct variation on number 34, right here. So direct variation, when you take the y and you divide it by the x, you should get the same number all the time. You always get the same number. Okay, parallel. Please don't write do not touch. Yes, I know it doesn't touch. I want you to put same slope. This is the main thing in algebra. Parallel have the same slope. Perpendicular, we talked about it, is flip and change sign. Okay, slope, you can write so many things about slope. You can write the word per, each, every. Those are the keywords in a word problem that will tell you, okay, this number is the slope. This has to be next to the x. And there's so many other things that we can write, but this is the space that I have. Y-intercept, again, you look at the y-axis. Does it touch it or not? X-intercept, you look at the x-axis. And you're looking to see, is it going to touch those axes? Is it going to intersect? That's the math word, okay? Touch is just the easy one. So, is it going to intersect with the y-axis or x-axis accordingly? Rate of change, this is also slope, okay? Rate of change is the same as slope. You can do delta y over delta x. You can also do rise over run, and more things. So these two connect. Okay, then equation. I mean, when you hear the word equation, equal, that's the base word there. It has to have an equal sign. If you don't see an equal sign, then it's not an equation. Expression is just a problem with no equal sign. It doesn't have any inequality sign. It's just a simple problem. Okay, so just I guess we can do an example. For example, 2x plus 3. That is an expression. It doesn't have equal and it doesn't have inequality, so it's just an expression. Simplify is to calculate, okay? To calculate whatever you can calculate in a problem. If you can't calculate anything, then you don't have to do anything. Solve, every time you see solve is basically find the missing letter, usually x, so find x. That's what it means when it says solve. Inequality, remember we have 4 of them. We have this one, we have this one, we have this one, and we have this one. How can you tell one from the other? Well, remember I showed you that trick. If you can write the word less, that means it's less. Okay, this is it. And if you do, it's okay. If you do the other one, greater than, and you can make a G, then you are going to have a greater than. Proportional, remember proportional is 0, 0. And then correlation, we haven't heard this word in a while. Correlation is just a relationship, okay? Relationship between two things. For example, what is the correlation between ice cream sales and sunglasses sales? As one increases, the other one probably increases too, because it could be summertime, right? So it's just a relationship that you can create between two different things. Linear parent function. So again, parent is original function. So the most basic line is y equals x. Okay, and that's how you do it. Coefficient. Coefficient is just a number next to the letter. For example, 3x. 3 is called a coefficient. It's right in front of the letter. Constant is just a number. A number with no letter, okay? For example, if I have y equals 3x plus 8. So I know that 3 is a coefficient. 8 doesn't have a letter, so this is the constant. Slope-intercept form, again, you have your formula chart. That is y equals mx plus b. Trend line, we did some trend lines earlier, so that's just a line of best fit. Zeros are just x-intercepts or roots. Solution is basically an answer. When you find x, that's the solution. Or if you have shading, for example, let's do a quick, if you have shading, the solution will be on the shaded area. Okay, that's the solution. Discrete is counting. Continuous is measuring. Oops. Measuring. Domain is x. Remember, domain, you have to put a boundary on the sides. Range is the y. You put boundaries on top and bottom. Independent is x. Dependent is y. Horizontal will always be y equals a number. Vertical will be x equals a number. So the graph for a horizontal looks like this. The graph for a vertical looks like this. And finally, scatter plots are points. Scatter means scatter all over the place and plot some points. And there it is. This is a scatter plot. Alright, this is your final review. If you turn it in, for final day, I will give you some extra points. Good luck. How are we giving them extra points?